The Old Way is a familiar revenge tale that overlays a heartwarming father-daughter adventure. The movie starts somewhere in Montana, United States of America, at the age of gunning and killing in the West, where this guy Colton Briggs is a bounty hunter or some kind of unofficial authorities organized to arrest and hang outlaws. This time around, it's the one of Walter McAllister brothers' turn to be hanged, a notorious bandit and scam. Brick is waiting for the execution and to get paid afterward for the job he has done. But this man, the sheriff or someone, talks too much until the brothers attempt to snatch their brother out of the cordette. Everybody starts gunning and Colton kills some men including one of McAllister's brothers. Then he gets the cash he was supposed to get for the job. As he is walking away from the scene, the McAllister brother attempts to kill him, but he shoots him in the head before he notices, in front of his son, James. Then he walks away like nothing ever happened. 20 years later, we open up in a farm far from the capital. Colton Briggs is tamed and a respectable husband and a father to his 12 years old daughter named Brooke. He enjoys watching his wife from a distance, then he comes close. After some smooch, his wife asks him to walk his daughter to school. He says he has to open this door. Then his wife says, then do both. On the way to school, Brooke argues with her father about taking horse instead of walking, but her father believes saddling an unsettling horse takes more time than walking. But Brooke cannot agree even her father calculates the amount of time and distance. Anyway, they get to the school but no class today due to somebody's illness. Brooke wants her daughter to go back home, but she wants to go to the store with her father. After some insistence, she gets to go along with her father. At the store, somebody comes in and starts nagging about how his mama wants to make apple pie but can't find the ingredients, so he wants some flour for his mama to make a cake for the church this year. When Colton goes upstairs to get him flour, he tries to steal some jelly beans, and Brooke gets him. He puts them back, and later on she cleans them all because she believes his hands were dirty. Move on. Back at home, we have James McAllister, the little boy haven't forgotten what he has witnessed 20 years ago. He is here for revenge. James stalks Ruth, Colton's wife. He claims he and his men came from a long distance and they need food and shower. Ruth addresses them the town where they can take shower and rest, but they want more than that. She tries to run and hide. They chase her. She hides in a barn, then she busts out on a horse and starts getting away, but James shoots the horse and they get her. James notices Colton's horse saddle and asks his wife to confirm it. He wants to make sure if they are in the right place. She acts brave and says it's from the man who can destroy their life. And it's too late now because he already knocked her arm off and shot Colton's horse. Then we cut to the store where Brooke is sorting out the jelly beans and her father wants to go home. When they get home, there is the marshal and his men. He apologizes for his men camping in his house and introduces himself, but Briggs knows him. And he notices that it's Colton Briggs. He's surprised that Colton is a family guy now. Then he circulates around the story and can't just aim it to the point, which makes Briggs frustrated. Then Marshall says they need to talk in private. Then we see Colton Briggs burying his wife, and there is Brooke, his daughter, sitting on the chair and shows no feelings for some reason. Marshall and his men are like, something is wrong with the girl or what? Marshall sits down with her and talks about how cold-blooded killer was his dad back at the time when he hasn't married her mom yet, and talks about that her father wasn't a good person at all, and Brooke says why he is telling her those stuffs. Then Marshall is confused and lags, then glitches deep into his being a marshal, and finally figures out how to get out of the situation as big as he is, and says what he is trying to say is her mother was a good person. She took the coldest man and turned him into a family man. Brooke can't believe her father was a killer, but she has never seen him hold a gun. Because he is a good man now because of her mother, says Marshall. Then she asks, my mother is dead now. Is my father still a good man? Which flips the story into revenge mood again. And Marshall tries to convince Colton not to do what he is thinking about because of his daughter and his wife. Marshall promises that they will get them for him and will hang them. Marshall tells Briggs that as far as that little girl is alive, he should not think about revenge. But Briggs already is feeling the old wild beast in him. First night without his wife, he is having a hard time. As he is checking around on how his wife got killed, he saw a message on the door which says, I owe you more. He goes to his secret box. There are pistols, and he loads out, then says, as long as she alive, and aim it to his daughter. And his daughter wakes up and says, Mama doesn't like pointing that gun at her, and comes back some hours after, and gets Brooke some clothes and gives her 15 minutes to get ready. He burns the farm, and they head across the desert in the middle of the night. Brooke on horse, Colton walking. At the morning they camp, and he gives Brooke half hour to sleep. Then they get back on trail. They do that every 4 hours. Brooke nags and questions all along the way about everything, but her father is colder than that. Then we see Marshall and his men, and he's talking about last night, how cold and strange Brooke was, the little girl, he says. Then they get ambushed by McAllister and his men. They start shooting, and Marshall loses quite some men. Colton wakes Brooke up to get going. James is mad at one of his men, why he didn't shoot Marshall first. Back to the father-daughter wondering how they can get another horse. Colton notices a rider coming, and he wants his horse. Brooke says don't kill him because her mama doesn't like it. But Colton believes it's the only way to take his horse, by killing him. But Brooke has some other plans that she doesn't know yet, and her father suggests crying, but she says she doesn't know how to cry. She reminds him of himself, born dead inside. But he teaches her how to cry, and it's really funny, but still she can't get it, how to cry. Then the rider is close, and Brooke tries her best to distract him. Somehow she succeeds. The guy is one of Marshall's men, who is supposed to go and get help for Marshall and his crew. But Colton brings him back and disarms them, then threatens Marshall to tell him where are those murderers and who exactly are they. But Marshall is not that easy. Then Colton holds a knife to his man's neck, and Marshall gives him what he wants. And then Marshall realizes that Colton wants to take care of his wounds in fact. Colton pulls out the bullet and burns it with a hot knife, and Brooke says the smell makes her hungry. What a legend. Anyway, Colton and his daughter take their horses and start chasing James McAllister. And Marshall still just can't get over with Brooke's character though. We see James McAllister and his group somewhere around the border close to Mexico. He has some Mexican dinero hidden which his men didn't know about, and they almost bullet each other, but James calmed them down by some pleasing promises. One of his men asks about what kind of plan is there for Colton Briggs, who is coming for them. James says, we do nothing, Briggs will come himself to them. We see them continuing their way to the place where Marshall told them they can find James and his men. And as usual, they argue about everything, and Brooke questions every move about her father, which is very amusing, I would say. James settles in a town somewhere around with his men, and organizes some guarding, and prepares his men to watch Colton may enter the town anytime from any corner. Back at Brooke and her father, it's about dark night. There is their little fire, and Brooke asks her father about what Marshall said. Colton is taking some sip of alcohol. She wants to know if it's true that her father used to kill people. He says yes, it's true. Then she asks if it's true that he gave up the killing business for her mama. Then he opens up and starts talking about his childhood and how he has never laughed or cried. Even the time when his mother died, he didn't shed a tear. He talks about how he has born dead inside and never felt fear or anything. She asks about how her mother changed that. He says when he met her mother for the first time, he felt fear. Fear of what if he can't get her or lose her. So she never had to do anything. And Brooke talks about her feeling when she lost her mother and never cried. She has born dead inside like her father. She asks about those who has killed her mother, if her father knows them, but he says he doesn't know them, and asks him to teach her how to shoot when sun comes up tomorrow. Morning, we see one of James' watchmen napping, which probably will be punished later, and Colton is teaching Brooke some shooting, but she can't handle the gun, it's too big and heavy. She asks for a pistol, and apparently she is good at it. Back at the town where James McAllister is waiting for Colton Briggs, Mr. Eustace is mad, saying no one relieved him after 4 hours out of his post, and he says they did, but he didn't notice because he was sleeping. And James breaks a finger from him this time, just for keeping him awake by touching that broken finger whenever he feels sleepy. Colton arrives somewhere close to the town, but he doesn't like entering into the town without knowing what would be waiting for him. But Brooke has some ideas, and her dad tells her to act like a normal person who is looking for something to buy, and tells her to ask from a shopkeeper for any new arrival or some groups. So she comes to the town for information. She enters a store and acts the exact same way as this guy did at their store, except she doesn't want to steal jelly beans, and she gets the bag of flour even. But James' man notices her. For some reason they know her and take her to James. She doesn't want to touch the food, and James thinks she's scared. James suggests his men to watch Briggs and let him get in the town before shooting him. One of his men says it's better not to play game with that man and shoot him before getting to us. and Brooke says it seems that he is the one who is scared. James talks about the day, how her father killed his dad, and how he felt that day, and how he has lived his life after that day until now. Briggs is wondering why his daughter does not come back, and James is still talking and sorting out his money. Briggs can't hold it anymore. He enters the town, and the man who is watching can't even see him how he puts a knife in his back and kills one or two other men before James gets the news that Briggs is in the town. James walks Brooke out with holding a gun behind her. Colton kills all of his men except Eustace, and he got shot in the left arm. James ties Brooke's hands up, and he seems relaxed. He hires two strangers, promises some big money to kill Briggs, but they can't get that money because they dead too, like his men. And James calls Briggs, let's do this the old way. He comes out and James asks him if he remembers him, but he doesn't. James says he hurt his feeling by not remembering him, but it's okay because he was a little boy by the time he saw him. Also, he adds that the important thing is he remembered Briggs. James has gone on his daughter by his man, so he can't shoot James. The only solution is to let James shoot him like he did to his father. That's what James says. Colton Briggs talks to his daughter and says how much he loves her and goodbye. Then he shoots his man who is holding gun on his daughter but can't shoot James. James shoots him first. He is down and his daughter Brooke rushes over him. James is happy and can't believe finally he did it. Then Brooke picks up the pistol and shoots him right in the head. Her father gives her his pocket watch with a picture of her mother in it. Then he dies. Brooke cries for the first time. Then finally our marshal is in the town. Brooke asks him how he is going to tweak this story so her father can come out a hero. Marshall is a little heartbroken for leaving them in the middle of the desert without food and horses, but he says he will do it about right. After Marshall is gone, she asks the waitress to bring her bag, the bag of money that James had hidden it in the hotel.